The plan was to drop off a little gift for my favorite broken beautiful college girl. But as I pulled up to the campus gates, I saw Clara Miller wrapped in some guy's arms. "It's not what it looks like. You have to let me explain," she was saying, her voice thick with unshed tears. "It's nothing, I swear. I'm not like that." Her eyes were red-rimmed, a perfect picture of wronged innocence. It was a heart-wrenching performance. I glanced at the gift box on the passenger seat. Not like that. What did she mean, nothing? This was a straightforward arrangement, a sponsorship, mutually agreed upon. The way she framed it, you'd think I was some kind of villain forcing her into this. She thought I was dirty? Fine. Plenty of other people didn't. I stubbed out my cigarette in the ashtray, straightened my shirt, and got out of the car. My eyes landed on a stunning woman with bombshell waves waiting for a ride near the university entrance. "Headed somewhere, miss?" I asked, flashing a smile. "Need a lift?" The next day, I met Scarlet Vance for the second time. When she texted me, I thought she was joking. I never expected her to actually find her way to my corporate headquarters. Standing before the massive floor-to-ceiling windows of my office, her silhouette was impossibly tall and sexy. The Louis Vuitton bag, the Balenciaga tights, the Hermes pencil skirt. Even if they were all knockoffs, she wore them with a kind of confidence that made them look real. And her face was flawless. A world away from Clara's girl-next-door purity, Scarlet's very eyes seemed to be flirting. Her full lips were painted a deep, blood red, like a vampire fresh from a feast. It was a look some might call gaudy, a far cry from the minimalist aesthetic prized by those with a puritanical streak. But I didn't care. I had my fill of plain green tea. Today I was craving a hot chocolate, extra whipped cream, extra sugar. The moment Scarlet opened her mouth, I knew I'd found the right one. "So, what should I call you from now on?" she began, her voice a low purr. "Mr. Archer sounds so formal, and you way too young for that. Darling feels a bit premature. Or," she paused, a wicked glint in her eye, "should I just call you Daddy?" Direct. Unbelievably direct. I almost broke character and laughed out loud. But that kind of talk was for specific times and places. For now, we needed to keep it professional. I suppressed a grin and glanced down at the file my assistant, Wendy, had prepared. Scarlet Vance. From some forgotten town in the Rust Belt, ordinary family. Still, it was a hell of a lot better than Clara's backstory. The gambling addict father, the chronically ill mother, the little brother who needed tuition money, and her own broken spirit. I closed the file and looked up at her. She was pouting at me, her red lips forming a perfect, irresistible O. She was fantastic, if maybe a little too eager. "How many sponsors have you had before this?" I asked. "Are you still in contact with any of them?" Scarlet adopted a breathy, girlish tone. "You're the only one for me, baby," she cooed. The baby voice was a bit much, but damn if it didn't sound good. I was into it. "All right, this week, I need you to get a full-panel medical screening at a top-tier hospital. Bring me the report. If everything checks out, you'll start next week." "Of course. Thank you, baby." Swaying her hips, she clicked out of my office on her 3-inch heels, practically vibrating with excitement. I watched her go, mesmerized by the exaggerated curve of her hips. I mulled it over for a second. Judging by the physics of her walk, those curves were 100% real. Scarlet's medical report hadn't even landed on my desk when Clara showed up. She was wearing a faded dress and a pair of worn-out white Converse, pedaling a city bike. The perfect portrait of a poor, struggling student. It made you wonder where the $25,000 I deposited into her account each month actually went. Was this just her default setting, or was she method acting? She wasn't here to see me. She hadn't even noticed my car parked across the street. This coffee shop was just her part-time job. Predictably, some guy was already hitting on her, and Clara, looking every bit the part of the chaste ingenue, was turning him down. She told him she already had someone she liked. There was a time, in my naivety, when I thought she meant me. After all, I was handsome, I was rich, and most importantly, I was willing to spend money on her. That $25,000 a month was just the baseline. There were the spontaneous Venmo transfers, the gifts, the dinners at Michelin-star restaurants. Not liking me was tantamount to not liking money. And who in this day and age had a problem with money? Besides, it wasn't like I was asking her to pledge her undying soul to me in some epic, tragic romance. Was faking it really that hard? Couldn't she provide even a baseline level of emotional validation? Her current act, playing both the victim and the virtuous maiden, showed a stunning lack of professionalism. Just then, a handsome, clean-cut guy walked in. Strong jaw, bright eyes, radiating that boundless, youthful energy. Clara's gaze snapped to him instantly, a blush creeping up her neck. I recognized him, the guy from the campus gates. I heard Clara ask, her voice a timid whisper, "Did you?" Did you come here just to see me? The guy, Connor, I think his name was, gave a casual smile, his eyes empty of any real emotion. I just heard the coffee here was good. Any recommendations? Clara, who had been looking dejected just a moment before, immediately lit up. She launched into a detailed explanation of every coffee on the menu, even advising him on the precise number of sugar packets for each one. The whole production took so long that the people in line behind him started leaving in frustration. After her lengthy presentation, Connor didn't even glance at her suggestions. He just pointed to the most expensive drink at the top of the menu. Clutching the menu to her chest, Clara practically skipped over to the espresso machine to make it herself, a blissful smile on her face. She was never that deferential with me, and I was the one paying her bills. I guess this is what love looks like. It makes you blind to who's a king and who's a pawn. She probably thought the endless gifts, the surprises, and the $25,000 monthly wire transfers were just an even trade for the privilege of looking at her pretty face. It was like that old online argument. Don't you know how much of her youth a girl wastes on you? Right? And what about the guy's youth? I've seen the girls my friends keep on the side, models, college students, even professional escorts. And yes, I use the term girls loosely. Gender was never a barrier for either party. But every single one of them knew the score. You play along, you keep the sponsor happy, even if he makes your skin crawl. A guy like me, I was considered a catch in this world. A sponsorship wasn't a one-way street. She was getting a hell of a deal. I turned down dozens of women my friends tried to set me up with, wanted to find someone on my own. And I ended up with Clara, who had the audacity to get pretentious on me. I'd ask her out, and she'd flake. It was always a shift at work, a student government meeting, or a lab project I can't get out of. I never got mad. I'd even offer to help, asking if there was anything I could do to make her life easier. When my friends heard about it, they all thought I'd actually fallen for her. They'd joke, half seriously, that I needed to remember the nature of our relationship. Of course I knew. No arrangement was supposed to look like this. The affection and leeway I gave Clara had crossed every conceivable line. Part of the blame was mine, I suppose. I'd never even been in a serious relationship before taking over the family business. Sponsoring Clara was a first for me. I was the one who failed to set the right boundaries. Draining the last of my coffee, I stood up and pushed the door open. The little bell chimed. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the girl making coffee glance in my direction. It was just after dusk when my scheduled board call ended. A knock came on my apartment door. It was Scarlet. Honestly, I was surprised. The medical report she'd given me was pristine. Perfectly clean, perfectly healthy. She didn't even have a single cavity. Tonight, she'd gone for a different look. Her long, wavy hair was pulled back into a high ponytail. She wore a tight, bright yellow Pikachu t-shirt with a pair of light-wash jeans. The stilettos were gone, replaced by a pair of clean white sneakers. She was doing the whole innocent girl-next-door thing. Noticing my eyes on her outfit, she spoke. Do you like this? I dressed up special for you. She fluffed her hair, and as she moved, Pikachu's cheeks strained against the fabric, offering a tantalizing glimpse of her toned midriff. Judging by the way the material clung to her, what was underneath was all natural. Well, I didn't answer, she continued. What's wrong, baby? You don't like it? To be honest, I'm not a huge fan either. She spun around gracefully, a cloud of perfume following her as she settled directly into my lap. The feeling of her warm, soft body against mine made my breath catch in my throat. So, she murmured, wrapping her arms around my neck, her voice dropping to a husky whisper. Does this mean I passed the test? Her lips, coated in nothing but a clear gloss, looked like glistening jewels. I nodded, silently urging her to get up. She let out a little hum of displeasure, lingering for a dramatic moment before finally sliding off. I let out a long breath. Then she spoke again. Are you hungry, baby? I can make you something to eat. Her eyes twinkled. I promise you'll like it. The breath I just exhaled hitched in my lungs. She blinked innocently, her fingers tracing the seams of her jeans. I stood up, looking down at her. You're the one who's hungry, aren't you? You had to fast for the blood work. You haven't eaten all day. She didn't show a shred of shame at being caught in her lie. Instead, she just doubled down with a new excuse. I was just in a hurry to get here and see you, she chirped. Besides, if I don't eat, how will I have the energy to take good care of you? I was speechless. A pot of pasta later, Scarlet had devoured most of it. After she polished off my share of the fried egg too, I couldn't help but stare. The report didn't say anything about her family being destitute. If you're still hungry, I can grill you a steak. The sight of her eating with such gusto made me happy. I felt like I could eat more myself. But she shook her head, slurping down the last of the broth from her bowl, not wasting a drop. Steak is for later, she declared. After I've proven myself. I felt a surge of profound satisfaction. I excitedly slurped up a few more noodles myself. Now I thought, this is professionalism. It just goes to show you, every field has its masters. True talent will always shine through. My satisfaction, however, was short-lived. Under the warm, ambient lighting, a rich, heady fragrance filled the air. It was one of the most common, most widely used nightclub perfumes, and it was making my head spin. Through a hazy fog, I heard Scarlet's voice. Ooh, real abs. Let me kiss them. Wow, this is amazing. I'm eating so well tonight. Lucky me. Something was wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. Why did it suddenly feel like I was the one being sponsored? With that thought, I gritted my teeth, flipped the little demon off of me, and pinned her to the bed. Did she really think I couldn't handle her? After a long and heated negotiation, we finally fell into a deep sleep sometime in the dead of night. I was drifting in that space between sleep and waking when I felt a tickle in the crook of my neck. Scarlet's hair. I opened my eyes. Wait a second, I said, half laughing, half begging. Stop. Give me a break. I'm not made of steel. She licked her lips, looking like she was far from finished. Clutching my aching back, I managed to get dressed with Scarlet's assistance. I had a client meeting this afternoon. I'd have to crawl into the office if necessary. As I was about to leave, Scarlet asked, Baby, I want to be an actress. Can you help me? I stopped in my tracks, my brow furrowing. You've been here one night, and you're already making demands? Don't you think you're moving a little fast? It was 7 times she corrected me. You can count the wrappers in the trash, if you don't believe me. That's not. Be serious. Wasn't it enough? I sighed and rubbed my forehead. Her logic was baffling. I had no idea how she got into a top university. Wait a second. Just because she was waiting for a ride at the campus gates didn't mean she was a student there. Are you a student at NYU? She puffed out her chest. Nope. Of course. I should have known. Her outfit that day was all wrong for a student. Let's wait, I said. Down the road. I'll send you abroad. You can get some bogus master's degree from a European school to impress people. Scarlet had other ideas. I don't want to go to school. I want to be an actress. The money's fast. My head was starting to hurt. I told her to stay home and wait for me. I couldn't have this woman parading around town. If people knew I was sponsoring someone like this, they'd laugh at my lack of taste. The driver was already waiting with the car to take me to the office. As we pulled away, I couldn't resist a glance back. Scarlet was waving at me, her big, wavy hair glinting in the sunlight. Her face, flushed and radiant from our morning activities, looked even more alluring. The buttons on her silk pajamas were only done up to her chest. As I stared into the abyss stared back. Come home soon, she yelled, cupping her hand around her mouth. I heard her. I turned back around and sent a text to my assistant. Order some outfits for Scarlet. Sexy, form-fitting things from a few designer brands. And get a variety of stockings. Wolford, La Perla. The good stuff, comfortable to wear, comfortable to touch. She was the kind of woman who set your blood on fire just by looking at her. The innocent student look wasn't her brand. It was fine for a little role-playing, but that was it. After a 3-hour marathon battle in the conference room with a relentlessly picky client, my back was screaming in protest. I sank into the plush executive chair in my office. Even with the ergonomic cushion, a dull ache radiated from my lower back. But there was no alternative. This entire family enterprise rested on my shoulders. I had to handle these things personally. My parents' marriage was a business merger, nothing more. After the wedding, they went their separate ways, each living their own life without bothering the other. My half-brother from my father's side and my half-sister from my mother's were content to just sit back and wait for their dividend checks. It worked out for the best, I suppose. It meant no one could meddle in company affairs. Baby, a voice from under my desk made me jump, sending a jolt of pain through my spine. A head popped up and, without a moment's hesitation, planted a loud, wet kiss on my cheek. What are you doing? I said through gritted teeth, my face a mask of stone. Scarlet, completely unfazed, climbed out and settled into my lap. What? Isn't this how it's supposed to be? She purred. You know what they say? When there's work for the secretary to do, she does it. And when there isn't. She had snuck into the company, dressed in a full-on sexy secretary outfit, complete with a pair of non-prescription, gold-rimmed glasses. She deliberately pushed them down to the tip of her nose and raised an eyebrow at me. It was a swift vote. The motion was passed unanimously by all parties. Half an hour later, as she straightened her clothes, I rubbed my aching back and sighed. If this kept up, I was going to be completely wiped out. I needed to find something for Scarlet to do, to channel her energy somewhere else. She couldn't spend all her time focused on wearing me down. Her secretary performance just now had been surprisingly good, like something out of a movie. Fine. I'd send her into the entertainment industry. Let her be an actress. I dialed a friend who ran a production company. Less than 2 hours later, I got a message. It wasn't from my friend. It was from the front desk. Mr. Archer, a Miss Clara Miller is here to see you. Well now, this was a rare sight. Clara had always been ashamed of our arrangement, refusing to ever set foot in my company for fear of gossip. The sun must be rising in the west today. I'm busy. Tell her to go home, I said. I was about to hang up when the receptionist cut in. Sir, Miss Miller insists on seeing you. I tried to tell her you're unavailable, but she won't leave. I frowned. Fine. Take her to the small conference room. I'll meet her there. The moment I hung up, I heard the click of a lighter. Scarlet took a drag from a cigarette, choked on the smoke, and then cheekily placed it between my lips. A little post-coital smoke, she said with a wink. You look so hot when you loosen your tie and smoke with your head tilted like that. God, she was good at this. Whether it was genuine or not, it felt incredible to hear. Be good and head home for now, I said, patting her on the backside. I've got something to take care of. She blew me a kiss and, ever the professional, left without another question, her hips swaying on the way out. I went to the conference room to see Clara. She was in her usual uniform, a simple white dress, white sneakers. The sight of it was so bland, so utterly devoid of excitement, that it stirred nothing in me. The second I walked in, she shot up from the couch, her voice and eyes filled with accusation. Damien Archer, I was fired. The coffee shop where she had her part-time job was one of my assets. So naturally, being fired pointed the finger of blame directly at me. I found a chair and sat down. My back was killing me. I didn't want to stand for a second longer than I had to. And Clara's face flushed red, then went pale. Her delicate hands were clenched into fists. I didn't know you were there that day, she snapped. Connor is just a friend from my department. He's been really nice to me, so we talked for a few minutes. Can't you be a little more broad-minded? Stop being so petty. Before she could finish, I cut her off. Fine, I'll have them rehire you. Clara seemed completely unprepared for me to be so agreeable. The scathing speech she had prepared died in her throat, leaving her feeling like she'd thrown a punch at a pillow. Oh, well, okay then. That's settled. I let out a short, sharp laugh. On an hourly basis, of course. I added, $15 an hour. Go ahead and check around. That's a very fair rate. My words hung in the air. She stared at me, stunned. Then, as if she'd suffered some great injustice, her eyes welled up with tears. For her part-time job, she came to the coffee shop for 3 hours after her classes. I was paying her $6,000 a month, with full benefits, the same as a veteran full-time employee. And she had the nerve to act like this was her hard-earned money, something she'd achieved with her own 2 hands. Damien, stop it, she cried. It's not what you think with me and Connor. Can you please stop being so paranoid? Her anger was almost funny. Her lips were a little thin, giving her a perpetually severe look. She had no chest, no ass. Her performance in bed was difficult to praise. A slight improvement over a wooden plank, maybe. Her complete lack of enthusiasm was a total turnoff. But all of these were areas where Scarlet excelled. Connor, I mused. His name wouldn't happen to be something ridiculously dramatic like Connor Sterling or Connor Prescott, would it? The thought of some cheesy romance novel plot occurred to me. Clara's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Why are you asking about him? I'm telling you, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you have money. If you dare hurt Connor, I stood up and straightened my collar. You'll what? But Clara didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on my neck. I followed her line of sight and touched the spot. A smudge of red lipstick, previously hidden by my collar, came away on my fingers. Oops. I remembered to wipe my face, but I forgot my neck. A storm of emotions crossed Clara's face. Finally, unable to contain herself, she stalked toward me, her voice a low hiss. Damien, where did that lipstick mark come from? She seethed. You were just in your office. The two of you. You actually went and found a woman like that. If this were a movie, this would be my cue to declare, Scarlet is not that kind of woman. But the reality was, Scarlet absolutely was that kind of woman, and she was a master of the craft. The tears that had been welling in Clara's eyes finally spilled over. How could you behind my back? Why? What does that shameless whore have that I don't? Wow. Just wow. She was so noble, so pure. I wanted to give her a round of applause. While I was silently marveling at her audacity, Clara lunged at me, grabbing and tearing at my collar. What were you thinking? Damien, you bastard. Seeing that my shirt buttons were about to pop, I grabbed her wrists and pushed her away. Clara stared at me in disbelief. You pushed me. I gave her a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Clara, watch your tone. Who the hell gave you the right to speak to me like that? Perhaps because I'd always been so indulgent with her, never once raising my voice, she seemed to suddenly remember the true nature of our relationship. In an instant, her face went white. "But you still can't," she stammered. I pressed my fingers to my temples, looking down at her. "I can't what? I'm not even going to bring up all the little trinkets and gifts I bought you. Let's talk about the 25 grand a month. You don't have to feel like you owe me anything, but you should at least have some respect for the money itself. If I'd thrown it all in pennies into a fountain, at least I would have heard a splash. You don't even have the most basic sense of professionalism. Why do you have to be angry with me?" Clara's eyes went vacant. My blunt words had shattered her carefully constructed pedestal of purity. While she was still stunned, I had security come up and escort her out. "Next time you want to see me," I called after her, "remember to make an appointment with the front desk." One of my company's new developments was a private, high-end condo complex. Most of the residents were the mistresses and sugar babies of the city's elite, all set up in apartments I'd arranged. Logically, I should have put Scarlet there too, but she refused, insisting on staying at my villa. Every time I mentioned buying her a place of her own, she'd pout and immediately wrap herself around me. In just over a month, I'd lost a noticeable amount of weight. Today, I found myself lying on the sofa, utterly drained, staring blankly at the chandelier. "You said you wanted to be an actress, right? I've made the arrangements." But Scarlet, hearing the news, didn't cheer. She just snuggled deeper into my arms and planted a loud, wet kiss on the nearest available patch of my skin. The sound made me flinch. "You're the best, baby," she purred. "But can we wait a little longer? I want to spend a few more days with you." Great. Now she wasn't in a hurry. The same woman who had been pestering me about it daily. The problem was I was in a hurry. A few more days with this woman, and she would drain me completely dry. I had given her a black card, which I funded with $35,000 a month. She deserved the extra 10 grand. Aside from her insatiable appetite for my body, her performance was infinitely better than Clara's. To my surprise, Scarlet had shaken her head and refused it. "I don't want the money," she'd said. "Baby, just give me acting roles instead. Please." I knew what she was really saying. The entertainment industry was a shark tank, and she knew she couldn't navigate it alone. Every A-list star had powerful backers. Those without them either faded into obscurity or, well, Scarlet was smart enough to know she needed me to run interference. I didn't have the power to make her a global superstar, but getting her small roles was nothing. I heard myself say, "All right, we'll see how you perform." I regretted the words the moment they left my mouth. Scarlet immediately sat up, scrambling on top of me like an octopus. She narrowed her eyes, puckered her red lips, and leaned in for a kiss. "Good boy." I panicked and pressed my hand against her forehead, stopping her advance. Seeing her confused expression, I forced a weak laugh. Don't you have anything else to do? Maybe I could get you a membership at a spa? You'll need to look your best for the camera, right?" She shook her head vigorously, her long hair fanning out like spilled ink. "I'm a natural beauty. I don't need any maintenance." To prove her point, she took my hand and guided it over every single one of her natural assets. I snatched my hand back, terrified of accidentally setting her off again. It finally dawned on me. She'd gotten a taste, and now she was hooked. She wasn't in a rush to conquer Hollywood. She was in a rush to conquer me. "The director is coming over tonight," I declared, scrambling out from under her. "It's decided." I fled upstairs. That evening, the director I'd contacted arrived at the villa. With my friend as the middleman, everything went smoothly. Scarlet did an impromptu screen test on spot. Given her commanding presence, she was to play the part of a powerful female boss, confessing her unrequited love for a subordinate. There was no script. It was all improv. I was her scene partner. My role was to be a mannequin, stand there and let her unleash her acting chops. The moment the director yelled action, Scarlet's emotional intensity hit me like a wave. Her eyes, usually sparkling with mischief, were now fixed on me with raw, profound longing. "My love," she began, her voice trembling. "I love you so, so much." Why? What does that little bitch Clara have that I don't?" She moved closer and closer, so close I could feel the sweet, hot puff of her breath. A jolt of alarm went through me. Fearing she was about to take things too far, I quickly turned my head away. But she audaciously grabbed my chin and forced me to look at her to meet her intense gaze. "Damien Archer, you know you love me more, don't you? Every time we're together, your body tells me everything I need to know. You belong to me." I could feel her hand tightening on my jaw, her gaze unwavering. It felt like she was about to devour me whole. I was genuinely surprised by Scarlet's performance. I could never have pulled that off. The director, however, had a different take. "Miss Vance has a lot of passion, no doubt," he told me in private. but it's a bit much. She's less powerful boss and more scorned mistress who didn't get her allowance. But then he shifted gears. No matter. Who cares about acting skills these days? Anyway, we'll put her in a web series. With her looks, she could be the lead, no problem. So, Scarlet had passed. The process was messy, but the outcome was what mattered. The night before she was set to leave for the shoot, she stood outside my bedroom door, hugging a pillow. "Baby, let me in," she pleaded. "I want to thank you properly." I was huddled under my covers. "You don't want to thank me," I yelled back. "You're just after my body." Scarlet resorted to scratching at the door and whining. "But I'm going to be gone for months. I'll miss you. Please, baby, just open the door." I pretended not to hear. She was relentless, her voice dripping with a syrupy sweetness that gave me goosebumps. Finally, after my strenuous objections and repeated warnings, she agreed to do nothing but sleep next to me. Only then did I dare to open the door. The night passed without incident. The next morning, as she was leaving, I couldn't find my shirt. I turned around and saw Scarlet stuffing it into her suitcase. "What are you doing?" "Keepsake," she said without looking up. "For when I need to take matters into my own hands." I didn't press the issue. I drove her to the airport. Before she boarded, she threw her arms around me and kissed me again and again. "You have to come visit me on set," she demanded, "or I'll miss you too much." I nodded and agreed. But a month passed, and I never went. It wasn't for lack of wanting to. The company was just insanely busy. Our previous client had doubled their order, and I had to oversee the project personally. Scarlet didn't complain, but she'd call me every night just to talk. Today, I answered the phone as usual, but the voice on the other end was Clara's. "I've thought about it for a long time," she said, "and I've decided to let bygones be bygones. Let's get back together." I was baffled. Was she actually framing this as her magnanimously forgiving me? "That restaurant we went to last time was so nice," she continued. "Why don't we meet there tonight? I'll bring my best friend and some of my senior classmates." "Hold on," I cut in. "Clara, we're done." I paused. Well, not that we were ever really together by your logic, so I guess we can't break up. But you get the point. The last time at the office, I've been so disoriented by Scarlet that I'd forgotten to make things crystal clear with Clara. I had no time to play out some dramatic redemption arc from a bad romance novel. We were adults. We were busy. And more importantly, I hadn't been the one in the wrong. In fact, I'd gotten the short end of the stick. I'd paid for a service and received absolutely no emotional return on my investment. Lesson learned. Next time I sponsored a beautiful girl, I'd find a professional. The thought immediately brought Scarlet's face to mind. It had been a while. I felt a familiar itch. The line was silent for a long moment before Clara spoke again. "Damien, you're still jealous, aren't you? You found that woman just to get my attention, to debase yourself. I've already forgiven you. What more do you want?" I didn't have the energy for this. I hung up the phone, told my assistant to book me a flight, and decided to visit the set. Scarlet had been begging me to come anyway. I might as well surprise her. As soon as the plane landed, I rented a car. By the time I got to the film set, Scarlet was in the middle of a scene. After her audition, the director had recast her. She was now playing the villain, a character named Delilah Thorne. And though she was the antagonist, she had the most screen time. The true star of the show. Her character was a glamorous, seductive femme fatale. It was clear she had the young actor playing the male lead completely mesmerized. He was stumbling over his lines. I was about to find a spot in the shade to watch when Scarlet, with just a casual glance up, spotted me immediately. I didn't know if Scarlet just had a natural talent for it, but her acting was good. She didn't miss a single line or cue before the director called cut. It was astonishing how much her skills had improved in just over a month. Just like now, one minute, she was presenting me with a bouquet of wildflowers she'd picked herself. The next, she was luring me into her trailer under the pretense of giving me a gift. My brief moment of sentimentality vanished. A moment ago, she was playing a stone-cold heartbreaker. Now, she was looking at me like a devoted, adoring, and utterly greedy lover. The view was making my head spin. Scarlet clearly didn't care that we were in a trailer on a public film set. I quickly called a halt, grabbing her hands firmly. She misinterpreted the gesture, immediately going still and looking up at me with pure, unadulterated anticipation. The silence stretched on. Her excitement slowly morphed into disappointment. With painstaking slowness and visible reluctance, she began to button her blouse. All the while, she shot me sultry glances, but seeing I was serious, she finally slumped against me, pouting. "What took you so long to come see me?" she whined. "I missed you so much the flowers were starting to wilt." I could tell she was at most half telling the truth. Her acting skills were improving at an alarming rate. I gave her a cool look. "Really? You look like you were having a great time out there." That scene with the leading man was very convincing. Her eyes widened. She lunged forward and clung to my arm. "Oh no, that's not real. That's just acting," she insisted. "Baby, I missed you the most." Scarlet rocked back and forth, clinging to my arm, and the gentle motion was enough to stir something in me, washing away the last of my annoyance. I smiled and pinched her smooth cheek. "So, you're not filming anymore? Did you wrap early?" She stretched languidly. "Well, you're here now, aren't you?" I told the director I was done for the day. Unbelievable. The entire production was waiting on her. She was already learning how to be a diva. I could practically see the future, paparazzi leaking some scandal about her, and her pouting and pleading for me to make it go away. She changed the subject. "Will you take me shopping today? I've been so busy with filming, I haven't had a chance to explore." I agreed. I figured she had her eye on something. Buying her a nice gift would be a good reward. But to my surprise, after dinner and a movie, Scarlet just complained that her feet were sore and she was tired and wanted a rest. So, naturally, we ended up in a presidential suite with a panoramic city view, and she refused to leave. The moment we walked in, I saw her staring at the floor-to-ceiling windows, her big, watery eyes darting around mischievously. She was clearly up to no good. "Baby," she purred, sidling up to me. "Wouldn't you like to?" "No, but I would." "Can't you be serious for 1 minute?" "What's not serious?" "Dinner, a movie, a hotel. It's the perfect date," she said, her tone utterly righteous. It suddenly struck me that this was the classic dating playbook. This woman was running a game on me. Before I could process it, a warm body crashed into mine. "You're the one who said you were tired, so I brought you here to rest." I lied, she whispered. The web series, titled My Wife's Regret, became a viral sensation. Not because of the cheesy, borderline nonsensical plot, but because of Scarlet. Her character, Delilah, was a beautiful, toxic heartbreaker who single-handedly elevated the audience's standards. Rumor had it that major film studios were already looking to cast her. In no time, she was being hailed online as the queen of toxic girlfriends, amassing a legion of devoted, slightly unhinged fans. Comment sections were filled with things like, "Mommy, please ruin my life." Meanwhile, I was swamped with work, finalizing a major project, and occasionally buying up some online ad space to boost her profile. The phone on my desk rang. It was a front desk. Clara Miller was here to see me. She had made an appointment. When she came in, she was a picture of unprecedented meekness. Her hands were folded demurely at her waist, her voice gentle. "Damien," she said softly, "I've missed you." Scarlet had said those same words to me, usually while whispering them into my ear for no reason at all. I was immune. "You miss me? Or you miss my money?" The truth was, Clara's story about the gambling father, the sick mother, and the student brother was all true. We had met by chance at a charity gala my company was sponsoring. She was there with a professor. In a sea of couture gowns, she stood out in her simple, clean dress, a delicate flower in a jungle of thorns. She had approached me, her voice shy. I had just taken over the family business and was feeling restless. Soon after, we became acquainted. At first, when I offered her $25,000 a month, she was offended, claiming I was insulting her. But I told her, in my eyes, you're worth it. Over time, she got used to it. She even used the money I'd given her over the years to solve her family's problems. But it's easy to get used to luxury and hard to go back. Now that the money was gone, she was feeling the pinch. It was that simple. At my words, Clara's hands clenched into fists, a look of humiliation flashing across her face. "You were the one who approached me first, and now you look down on me?" "Damien, drop the sick games. It's pathetic." I shrugged. "My apologies, Miss Miller. Was there something else?" Clara's chest rose and fell rapidly as she wrestled with her emotions. With a furious gesture, she slapped a photograph down on my desk, then turned and fled, a single, glistening tear tracing a path through the air. "See for yourself," she cried out. "You're being played for a fool, and you don't even know it." I looked down. It was a candid shot of Scarlet. In the photo, she was looking cozy and intimate with a flashy, older man dripping with gold jewelry. The next day, the photograph was everywhere. The entertainment news cycle descended like sharks smelling blood, plastering the story across every front page and homepage. I tried to kill it, but it was spreading too fast. I knew what kind of person Scarlet was from the beginning. This wasn't some grand love story between us. It was a simple arrangement, sponsorship. But maybe because of the emotional validation she provided, or maybe because her acting was just that good, I had to admit I felt a pang of disappointment. The water in the pot on the stove boiled over and over. I picked up the box of pasta, then set it back down. I couldn't tell if I was hungry or if it was something else. I just felt empty. Just then, the front door opened. Scarlet was back. She tiptoed over to me and tugged on my sleeve. While I didn't react, she slid to the floor, burrowed under my arm, and pressed her face against my chest. "Baby, I'm sorry," she whispered. Her tone told me everything. The story was true. The last shred of hope I'd been holding on to dissolve. "It's fine," I said, my voice flat. "I'm making dinner." The pasta was ready. I served her a bowl. Hers had a fried egg on top. Mine didn't. I had no appetite. This time, she didn't eat either. Seeing that I wasn't touching my food, she asked cautiously, trying to placate me, "Baby, are you mad at me?" I let out a long sigh and shook my head. "I promised I'd help you. I'll do my best to suppress the story, but I can't guarantee how effective it will be. It's out of our hands now." Her face lit up for a second, but I continued. "On the 10th of this month, finance will wire $35,000 to your account. Consider it a severance package. We're done." Her expression froze, then crumpled into one of pure misery. She leaped off her chair and threw herself at me. "No, baby, I don't want it. I don't want the money. We're not breaking up." I tried to push her away, but she clung to me like her life depended on it. Finally, my voice turned to ice. "Scarlet, let go. Our relationship was never that deep. Have some dignity." She finally looked up, her face streaked with tears. I had spoiled Clara and created a monster. I couldn't make the same mistake with Scarlet. She curled up on the sofa, making her tall frame seem small and fragile, her body racked with occasional, choked sobs. I hardened my heart and ignored her. Later, I wasn't sure when she was gone. Maybe I'd just been through too much turmoil recently. The thought of sponsoring anyone else held no appeal. My company's growth had started to plateau, and my family, without my consent, decided to arrange a marriage for me. It was the same path my parents had taken, a business merger. We'd get married, integrate our corporate assets, and then live separate lives, free to do as we pleased. My family told me her family's business was massive, even larger than ours. It was a rare opportunity. I couldn't be bothered. At the next family meeting, I slammed an ashtray on the table and let loose a torrent of abuse on the old fossils. I had worked my ass off to build this company so I could have a real family someday, to avoid repeating my parents' mistakes, not to be used as a bargaining chip. Besides, if they produced fewer illegitimate children over the years, the company could have saved nearly $10 million a year in dividends. That money could have been reinvested into the market, and we'd have been untouchable by now. But business is business, and courtesy is courtesy. I still had to take the meeting, or it would be seen as an insult. One evening, I arrived at a revolving rooftop restaurant. Across the table sat an older man, gaudily dressed in gold chains and rings. His taste was unique. Despite running a massive corporation, he was dressed like a newly rich gangster. I felt a flicker of recognition. "Good evening, sir. I'm Damien Archer. Please, call me Damien." I extended my hand. The man was surprisingly warm, his face crinkling into a broad smile. "Where's the rest of your family?" "Just you." "That's right," I replied politely. "I'm empowered to make my own decisions." "Good. A young man in charge of his own destiny. You're a talent. You won't disgrace my daughter." I was trying to figure out how to politely decline the arrangement when I heard the rhythmic click of high heels approaching. The sound was unervingly familiar. It was Scarlet. She was exquisitely dressed tonight, her hair swept up in an elegant chignon, a magnificent diamond necklace gracing her delicate collarbones. The exposed skin of her back glowed like creamy marble in the restaurant's soft light. She moved with the grace of swan. And then I remembered. The man in the scandalous photo. "Mr. Archer," she said, her voice polite and elegant, with a cool formality I'd never heard from her before. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you." I snapped out of my stupor and returned the gesture. "The pleasure is all mine, Miss Vance." In the parking garage, I yanked at my tie, an inexplicable frustration boiling inside me. I had just leaned against my car and lit a cigarette when a familiar silhouette appeared under the dim lights. "Why did you refuse?" Scarlet asked, and I was supposed to agree. My voice was cold. I felt like a complete idiot. The woman I had been sponsoring, my kept woman, had turned out to be the heiress to a corporate empire. And now she was part of an arranged marriage proposal. None of it made any sense. Seeing the frost on my face, her tone shifted. "Well, then why didn't you agree, baby? And you misunderstood me. Don't you think you owe me an apology?" She reverted to her pouty, pitiful act, sidling up to me and purring. "Which one is the real you?" I demanded. "Stop the act. This isn't funny." My face was a mask of stone. But then, without warning, Scarlet's face was inches from mine, and her lips were on mine. After a long moment, she pulled back, slightly breathless, and let out a frustrated sigh. "You and your pride, Damien Archer. You're the one who wronged me, and you're still putting on this cold front. I swear, I'm going to be the death of you." It was the first time Scarlet had ever used my full name. I licked the lingering taste of her from my lips. I apologize for misunderstanding you, I said. But why didn't you just explain things before? Are you addicted to the drama? Of course, she said with a sly smile. I was hoping for one of those dramatic scenes where you have to grovel to win me back. When I didn't respond, she knew it was a lost cause and changed tactics. Well, you still have to make it up to me for misjudging me. I didn't deny it. Fine. What do you want? I'll buy it for you. A cunning smile spread across her face. She tugged on my tie, pulling me close until her lips were at my ear. Well then, Damien, she whispered. Let's go home. For the next 3 days, the curtains in the villa remained drawn. The blade was back, sharpening herself on my bones once more.